The Sikh Research Institute's mission is to provide educational resources to Sikhs to lead a Guru-inspired life. As a global nonprofit organization, we produce original online courses, research papers, videos, podcasts, events, and books to create the largest go-to source of Sikh knowledge online. Today's class is a part of the live series, Anand Sahib, Way to Bliss. I'm sure all of you are familiar with our lovely presenter, but I'll give a quick introduction anyways. This class will begin with a 40-minute lecture, followed by 15 to 20 minutes for Q&A. So again, please drop your questions in the chat box and be sure to include your name and city. Surinder Singh is a researcher in Sikh studies. He works at the Sikh Research Institute, where he develops curriculum, presentations, and research papers on Sikh history and culture. Please welcome Surinder.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Hope everyone's doing well. We are into our 6th week of the online course, and today we will be covering 19th to 22nd. So just a quick recap what we did last week. So in 15th, we discussed that lovers do not make calculated moves. Love intuitively guides them. A person who is connected to a Kankar will act in equipoise, edge. Their priority, which is divine love, decides their lifestyle and actions. They do not act like most of us, whose goal is, worldly comforts, who use Gurbani or spirituality just for the sake of asking favors that will ultimately help us, sort of get and enjoy worldly comforts, which clearly shows that our relationship with the Guru or Akal Purkh is not love-based, but it's more transactional in nature, where we want to, get material things, and our love is not the focus. And we do it just to gain certain favors in exchange of doing certain parts, certain number of parts, or following certain token lifestyle for certain fixed amount of time. We use Gurbani as a magical spell to use it for gaining those things, instead of using it as a love song to instill the idea of love within, and arouse that feeling of longing within, which is missing. And so the idea in that body was that a Sikh is always supposed to remember and experience the word through the the Guru's eyes. And next body 16, Iswila Sabdhava informed us that if we seek happiness or bliss, we need to understand that the source of it is Guru Sabad, Sabd Swahava, Swahava Sabd, pleasing Sabad that brings happiness, bliss within, and the source is that Sabad. But then there is a caveat that even though the Sabad is accessible to all, it is essentially the grace that inspires and motivates people to motivates enough to act on it. People are not on their own able to, even if they know that this thing is good for us, because of our weaknesses, we are not able to act on it. Because most of us really know what is good for us, but our shortcomings, our weaknesses stop us from doing that. And when we are actually able to break, we are able to break that bondage, those shackles. That's essentially a sign of grace. When grace happens, we are motivated enough to actually go and engage with the Sabbath, act on it, and then enjoy a blissful life out of it. Of those, and stop being a hypocrite who's basically imitating spiritualists, and who's just trying to impress people or trying to gain favors by acting. Body 17th was Pavit Hoye Se Jana Jini Harityaya. It talked about the idea of purity and related to the, idea of internalizing divine love and acting on it, acting in basically love. It sort of, by implication, broke broke it from the worldly practice of keeping the body clean and following certain, ritualistic norms that are based on exclusivist ideas. It said, that pure are those who it's not those who basically who go on religious pilgrimages, or those who do penances, or those you know who basically crave for material things, but they're just trying to restrain themselves out of compulsion. There's a lack of real love. It's not those who are pure. Pure are those, who remember the divine, who who do not try to persuade themselves or try to, sort of pull themselves away from material things, even when their mind is actually engaged in the material things. It's the other way. When they are in real love, they indulgence in material world or the world around them actually doesn't give them pleasure. They get pleasure by engaging in the divine love, and there's no compulsion that's driving them. The enjoyment of their relationship with the divine which drives them, and they are the actual, real pure people. Lastly, body 18 was, karmi sahajuna upajay, sahajay sahasana jai. Mentioned that the real hindrance in developing, that love relationship is doubt. And doubt comes from ignorance. And when this ignorance is taken away or removed, eliminated through sabr, we learn to walk as per the Guru's instructions, and that removes the doubt, and that sort of sprouts, grows within us the love of Ekankar, and that act of walking or living our lives as per the Guru's instructions makes us pure. Purity is in actions. It's not in lip service or just mere words. So, with that, we'll start today's session. Just like the previous weeks, we'll pick up few vocabulary words and discuss them before the body so that we know them beforehand. So I've chosen two words, Ved and Trishna. Let's take Trishna first on the right. It comes from word Trisha, which literally means thirst. And the connotation is, craving for, material things, greed. That is how this is primarily used in Gurbani. At places, it also is used in the sense of anxiety, which is essentially a byproduct of craving or greed for. The following example, which you see on the screen, beautifully captures what we have learned so far in Anand Sahib. It says, that because there was a vacuum, there was a lack of love. Prem na chakya. I have not, tasted love, and as a consequence, meri tis na bujai. My thirst was not quenched, as I was stuck in the other love, and craving kept on, burning like a fire inside me, and then it makes a very important assertion. It says, Gaya sujoban tanupachitani. The woman repents when? Gaya sujoban, when the youth has passed. So youth here can be taken both literally as well as figuratively. Figuratively, it means the life. Youth is life here. That life has passed, and now near the end of life, fag end of the life, a person can only repent. And since she has wasted life, which they cannot get back. And literally, it means that the time to love Ekankar has passed. Since youth is the time when we when we want to, or when we can actually enjoy all flavors, all colors of life. And once We have spent that part of life in other, in other loves and material things. As we grow old and we see death approaching us, we sort of try to, out of compulsion, try to become quote unquote religious, not necessarily lovers. That's the difference these bodies were also highlighting. So that's Trishna. Trishna is the symptom. It's basically symptomatic of a person's other love and engagement with otherworldly things instead of one love, Ekankar's love. Okay, so the second word is on your left, the main word, Ved. Now this word is quite big and vast, and we actually can do an entire session or course on this. But our purpose here is to understand what it means and how it is used within Gurbani. It is essentially the basis on which pretty much the bulk of Hindu tradition stands. Literally, the word means knowledge, but in Gurbani, it is also used in the sense of literature and understanding, other than a reference to the text itself. So essentially, as it's shown on your screen, there are four Veds, Rig, Sam, Yajur, and Athar, and they are further subdivided into Samhitas, Brahmanas, Aranyaks, and Upanishads. Uh, in certain cases, just the first division, which is the Samhitas, is considered to be the corpus of the Vedic text. But sometimes all the four subdivisions together are referred to as Vedic text. Now, the part that is relevant to us is to understand how this word is used in Gurbani. It is used both as the Vedic text as well as knowledge or understanding of things. Take, for instance, the line that's in front of you on the screen. On the side, it talks about how, in a certain state of mind, which is referred to as khands, mind and consciousness are shaped. And it says, Jat Pahara, let self-control be the Pahara, the furnace. It's talking about how metals are shaped. And Tiraj Sunyar, make patience, let patience be, your goldsmith. Aharanimat, make mind the anvil on which you place the stuff we want to shape. Ved Hatyar, make Ved knowledge or understanding of things the hammer that you apply to shape your life or whatever you have placed on the anvil. So that's a very general understanding of Ved. Now, when the actual word appears in Gurbani in the next body, we'll discuss it there. Highlighted three words here, which I'll discuss when they come. Two of them we have already discussed in the third. So, essentially in the 17th body, we talked about, who is pure in the real sense. And there I mentioned about the religious leaders who impose ideas of, external purity as a sign of, spiritual superiority, that if I'm pure, if I'm looking a certain way or acting a certain way, I'm bound to be, spiritually superior or better from within. The Guru is basically rejecting that idea, and then again takes up that debate in this body, and then mentions, their state of being, those people who are just, pretending, which actually applies to all of us. It says, the first line, Jiyahu male, baharahu nirmal, people who are inwardly polluted, male, and outwardly pure, nirmal. Basically, they're put on a show. Nir is a negation, and mal means dirt or filth. So basically, who have put on a show of humility and divinity outside, and also insist. So basically, it works both ways. The idea of humility, basically putting up a show, as well as putting, using or using external appearance as a sign of internal state. So basically, the idea of external cleanliness. The second line says Baharo Nirmal. Again, it's a emphasis. The line has been turned around. Baharo Nirmal, even though they are outwardly pure, Giotamele, yet they are actually dirty within. They they have malice. Tini janam jue harya. Such individuals lose their life, or wandering directionless, with no certainty or no clarity, just like in gambling, jue, where people put something of value on stake, which is life in this case. We bet for things we are not certain about. We bet for things that are temporary or trivial, and we weigh, we put on stake. What do we put on stake for betting those things on? Uh, Jewel like life. Life is so important, which we don't get uh, so easily. That's the concept coming from in the tradition, and Gurbani exploits that. And Gurbani quite often uses word jewel like life. That is very precious. Use it, judiciously with care. ਇਹ ਤਿੰਨ ਤਿਸਨਾ ਵੱਡਾ ਰੋਗ ਲਗਾ in the second part. It is a sign of, ਬਾਹਰੋਂ ਨਿਰਮਲ ਜਿਉ ਤੇ ਮੈਲੇ ਤਿਨੀ ਜਨਮ ਜੂਏ ਹਾਰਿਆ. Those who have put on a show, but if internally who are dirty, what are they doing? What's happening to them? ਇਹ ਤਿਸਨਾ ਵੱਡਾ ਰੋਗ ਲਗਾ. It's a sign of, a disease, rog, which is a rog of tisna, thirst, the rog of desire. When a person is never in a state of peace or contentment, no matter how much wealth or possession or comfort the individual has accumulated over time. What's the real issue? The issue is marana. These individuals have marana manaha visarya. It is essentially because we assume that this life is forever, it is permanent, and we forget that our inevitable death is approaching. It happens when we forget that whatever we are accumulating will be left behind. Nothing will go with us, not even our body. It will be either burned or or buried in the soil. Nothing's going to go with us. Veda mein hai naam, Veda mein hai naam uttam. This line sort of makes it clear that the Guru is talking about the religious leaders, more specifically the Brahmin class, who who was the custodian of the religious scriptures in the Hindu tradition, and who solely had the right to both read and interpret the scripture for others. Commoners, quote unquote, what we call low castes, did not have the right to either read the text. It wasn't accessible to them. So essentially, it's talking about the Brahmin class, whose focus is different, who are basically starting from the beginning. Geomale, their focus or their intention is something else. Veda man, so Veda man namuttam. So it's a address. It's talking about them, that their Veda man namuttam. The Guru says that Veds mention the great Nam, Uttam Nam, so sunai nahi, which the Brahmin does not listen to. Phira hai Jew Betalia. Phira wanders Jew like Betalia. Betalia is like ghost. Betalia comes from word stem betal, and it can be broken into be plus tal. Be here is coming from ve, which is air, and tal is to live. Basically, someone who lives in the air. So it's a reference to the ghost, saying that the person who is supposed to be, guiding the masses, telling them the direction, giving them directions in life, is himself, directionless, and is wandering with a fickle mind because his mind is basically fixated on accumulating wealth and power, and persecuting uh, the oppressed, the lower caste. Now there is one very interesting thing in this line, which is the usage of word ved. We discussed in the vocabulary, and it mentions word nam here, that there is nam. So what does it mean to us when it says that veda mein namutam, that there is nam in Vedas? Well, we just covered samhitas, uh, which forms the basis of the Vedic text, and it contains the hymns and mantras that are essentially dedicated to certain deities like fire, air, rain, and so on and so forth. It's a long list. They essentially discuss cosmology, as well as they discuss They basically praise. They're written. Those mantras are written in praise of these deities. Even though many scholars propose that through these deities the Veds are praising the supreme divine, and that the deities are just a manifestation of the same concept of God. But when we go through these texts, it is not very clear if a supreme being is being eulogized or specifically being referenced. Acknowledgement of the supreme being is more incidental in nature, and it sort of eulogizes the manifest forms of the supreme being. And also the text is very formulaic in nature. It's like chants and spells. It has no sign of love or longing in it. In addition to that, it is not in the core Vedic text, what we call the Samhitas, but in the later texts like the Upanishads, that this idea of one supreme being is, interpreted and better, articulated. So most of the understanding of one supreme being is, coming from the later interpretations of the original Vedic text. So those later interpretations, what we call Upanishads, fall under the category of, it's called the school of thought Vedanta. So the point that I'm making is that this idea of one supreme being, even though commentators say it exists in Vedas, what I understand is it's more incidental in nature. So to me, the Guru is saying that, the Vedas, there is an attempt to engage with the creative, pervasive, manifest aspect of Ikankar. Now we defined, or we try to understand now in the first or the second session, and there we discussed that Nam is basically essentially the creative aspect of Ekankar. Nam is Ekankar, but it's an aspect of Ekankar which manifests with its creative nature. So Guru Sahib is saying that Vedas are trying to, by way of mentioning it, engage with the manifest or creative aspect of Ekankar, which is Nam in Sikhi. But the Brahmin isn't really, interested in investing or developing a relationship with it. I talked about the idea of love and longing, which is entirely missing. It's more like chants and spells. So, and the focus of the Brahmin is basically accumulating money and wealth, which applies to essentially all of us now. So, it also goes with the, Guru's attitude of not denying a person's right to believe in certain ideas, but then, using the same idea to reframe the narrative and then changing the attitude and behavior of a person. That is Gurbani's focus. So you notice Vedas invoked in a way to show that, what, people are trying different ways to engage with uh, what they can see, what they can perceive with their limited understanding of, with their limited faculties, how they're trying to, we talk about doing katha, narrative of the indescribable. Kalpur. People are doing that. In that sense, they are trying to engage with, or somehow develop a relationship with Nam. But the problem lies in the fact that their focus is something else, and their motive is not clear. They want something else, and they're just doing it for a show or for some ulterior motives. That's the real reason. So in the last line it says, "Kaha Nanak," says Nanak, "Jini, those who Sachitajiya, have forsaken uh, truth, and kude lage, have clung to trash, falsehood." Word kuda, most of you who can, who understand Punjabi will know this word. It actually means trash in Punjabi, and is actually used for everything that's temporary or transient in nature within Gurbani. So basically, anything that is material or which falls in the category of other love, puja pav. So kaha Nanak, jin sach tajya, those who have given up truth or the true one, and instead of engaging with the true one, have kude lage, attached to falsehood or trash. They have essentially janam jue harya. They are like a person who has lost everything in gambling. And these are the ones who are essentially, as the first line says, Jio Mele Bahro Nirmal. They are internally bankrupt or corrupt. but they have just put on a show. So the entire body is showing exactly what their state of being is, when they're trying to do this. So the body essentially is a commentary on the religious leaders, or any preacher class in general, who imposes superficial ideas of purity on others in order to create a hegemonic setup and live a hypocritical life to enjoy material wealth for themselves. They do not talk about things that matter in life, things like love, developing a relationship with the ikankar karpur, or developing a love or longing for ikankar. But if you carefully reflect on it today, it's not just a specific Brahmin class. It applies to all of us. It applies to religious communities across denominations. It applies to all people as well. Everyone's doing that, and they are sort of, in ways, making external purity a prerequisite for internal spirituality. They're making it a sign of it, which is very unfortunate, and we need to be aware of these things. All right. With that, we move to Podi 20. Now, Podi 20 basically contrasts the hypocritical folks from the previous Podi, with those individuals who have submitted to the Guru. It's a contrast here, and it's basically describing their state of being. Jiyaho Nirmal, it says, Jiyaho Nirmal, inwardly pure. Baharaho Nirmal, outwardly pure. This reminds me of a debate which is like a very common debate that happens within circles quite a bit, and I've actually dealt with it many times, when people put two options in front of you. They'll say, what, bande ne amar shakya si, that Sikh was initiated, was wearing a karpan, but he acts like a hypocrite, or they have problems in their life. On the other side, they will, juxtapose or put another person, and they say they don't look like Sikhs, or they don't behave, they're not Sikh, but they live like a Sikh. Their life is very pure. They are very pure at heart. So they create these, false narratives in order to, people have their own, guilts or insecurities, and they basically try to put in face two sides which are not even ideals of the Sikhi. We know, every one of us knows what the real ideal is, and that real ideal is a one who lives by the Guru's word, and also is not a hypocrite, basically who's same inwardly and outwardly. So this body is talking about that person, because as we discussed in one of the previous bodies, that how difficult it is to be a person like this. Living such a life is as difficult as walking on a sharp-edged sword, or walking through a very narrow path like fine hay. Because it's that difficult, because all of us are faltering, we try to look for excuses, false narratives, which can give us a sense of, what, it's okay, everyone is like that. So we need to get rid of that, and understand that none of those things are our ideals. Our ideal is this one, the body is telling us, which is Jiyahu Nirmal, Baharahu Nirmal, inwardly pure as well as outwardly pure. Those who have submitted to the Guru are both inwardly pure as well as outwardly. Body explains that it's not about the external purity. It is about integrity in life, behaving and acting in the same dignified manner, both in public life as well as private life. There is no hypocrisy. There is no pretense. When one's true inner self, which is at peace, also manifests through a matching behavior and conduct, that is our ideal state, not the one who is acting differently but is different from within, or the other side, which is like rebellious renegade or whatever. So, okay, so next says, Baharaho ta nirmal, jiyaho nirmal. not only from outside, but pure from inside as well. It's an emphasis. Basically, they are people who are of integrity. Their humble actions are not an act of performance, but that's a reflection of their true inner self. That's how they are. That's our idea. Sadhguru. So how do they make it happen? Sadhguru te karni kamani. That is because they ask or seek guidance from the Guru, Satguru, Satigurte, for every step they take in life. Karni kamani. They earn their deeds based on the Guru's instructions. Their life revolves around the Guru's instructions or Guru's wisdom. Kood ki soi pahucha nahi. Not even an inkling of falsehood touches them. We have covered this word soi in one of the previous bodies, which basically means a news or information of something. The idea is that the news or the information or the inkling of, core falsehood doesn't even touch them, stays away from them. It is not able to influence those who Satgurte Karani Kamani, who earn their deeds or basically who walk as per the Guru instructs. And what happens? Mansa Sachisamani, their desires to Sachisamani is merged with the true one or the truth. Their craving and their longing is also informed by their love. They only crave and long for the divine love. This idea of Mansa also appeared in one of the previous bodies. So that's how, when you encounter same ideas and words appearing again and again, that's how you build your vocabulary. So if you remember those words, that will help you increase your vocabulary and your understanding of the cultural context, the social context, and how Gurbani tackles human mind, human behavior. Janam Ratan Jini Khatia, those who have made the most of this jewel-like life by submitting to the Guru, they have Khatia, earned the worth of this Janam Ratan, jewel-like life. Ratan is jewel, Janam is life. So they who have, they submitted to the Guru, they are the ones who have actually earned the worth of this jewel-like life. They say Manjari, and they are the ones who are considered to be or should be considered good merchants or true merchants. This idea of merchants, Vanjare, the symbolism is very common in Gurbani. A person, who knows the value of, his her jewel-like life, does not put it on stake in gambling. Like the previous body was, talking about. A human merchant who is smart and wise knows the value of life and only trades in the most valuable thing, which is Naam. And when a person engages with Naam, it is considered as a sign of having made a good deed. And that person is called a good merchant. Whereas a person, who's trading in other love or material things, that person becomes a bad trader, who has basically gambled and has not made a wise move and was not done a profitable deal. So this idea of profitable deal, the word laha appears in Gurbani quite a bit. So it comes with laha. Laha word profit comes with banjara quite a bit. So any merchant or human merchant or person who is wise will do a profitable deal, will do a good deal. And in Gurbani, that profitable deal is the one of engaging with Naam. So when you have engaged with Naam, that's a profitable deal, and you become a pala vanjara, a good vanjara, a good merchant. So the next line says, Kaha Nanak, says Nanak, Jin man nirmal, those whose mind is pure. What is the sign of a person's mind being pure? Sada rahi gurnale. They live with the Guru forever, not just for a few token moments when they are doing part or they are in their religious life. Once they are lived that life for a couple of hours when they're in a function or when they're doing part, they move out and the Kalpurk is forgotten. That's not how these Vandaras act. The ones who are nirmal both from within and outside are the real merchants. And what do? Sada rahe Gurnale. They live with the Guru forever. Basically, they never forget what the Guru is instructing. They never forget what the Guru has asked them to meet the focus of life. So those are the ones who are our ideals, not the ones who are. I think with that I've also covered, what is the message in Body 20. It's basically talking about what are the, divinely people like. Basically, they show integrity in life. They behave similarly in public and private life because they are like that. They they are internally like the way they are externally acting. And this is because the Guru Sabad is instructing them and their life has become intuitive. They are not acting anymore. And this is a recipe for bliss. If we are able to achieve that, we don't live in small token, temporary moments of living by the Guru. When we are able to stretch that across our entire day, that's when we become people of integrity, and that's when we start to experience that bliss. And this body showed us what kind of people they are. Okay. Next, we discuss body 22, in which we have two words appearing. The network is unstable. All right. Okay, there are two words in this body, Sanmukh and Vemukh. Juxtaposed, Sanmukh on the left and Vemukh or Vemukh on the right. These are the two words that appear in Gurbani. Now, they both have, they're opposite of each other. But there are another two words that correspond to these words, which you must be aware of. Gurmukh and Manmukh. Gurmukh we have already covered in one of the previous bodies. Sanmukh is mostly used as an adverb, and it means in front of or in front of the face. Mukh, face. The idea is that a person is obedient or agrees to certain ideal in life. The word that goes with the Sanmukh is written below. It's Gurmukh, which is someone who has been initiated on a path, or one who has, in our case, one who has submitted to the Guru, or who has made Guru's wisdom or Guru's Sabad as the center of their life, who are basically Guru oriented or Guru faith. So sometimes these words are interchangeably used. As opposed to that, Vemukh is a person. Ve is the negation of Mukh, basically one who has turned away his or her face. Basically, someone who is disobedient, a person who has sort of turned away from an ideology. In the Sikh context, word relates to Manmukh, one who is focused on one's own mind and thought. Basically, people who are self-willed or self-centered, who do not listen to the words of wisdom. So, Vemukh, Manmukh. Is there a lag in the
I think there was a little bit of a lag, but
network?
I think you're good now.
Okay. So, Vemukh, Manmukh, Sanmukh, and Gurmukh. Vemukh and Manmukh, they are interchangeably used sometimes, and Sanmukh and Manmukh also are used interchangeably. They pretty much mean the same thing. Okay, with
Looks like we lost Surrender Ball right there. No problem. Sorry about that. We will just have to wait for him to make his way back. Again, apologies.
am I back? Hello?
Hello? Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, you're all good. Can you hear me? Oh, and we've lost Srinderpal once again. No problem. Again, apologies as we figure this out. I see there is, oh, yeah.
Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. Perfect.
And the slide is visible as well?
Yes, the slide is visible. Is it visible to you?
Yeah, Podi 21. Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
So we had just started Podi. Is it recording now?
Yes, yeah, it's been
Yeah.
recorded.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, we talked about the idea of integrity in thought and action, and this Podi is discussing how to achieve that. So how to achieve that guru-centric life. Sanmukh, word Sanmukh appears in the very first line. Je ko Sikh, if any Sikh, Guru Seti Sanmukh hove. Seti means with, and the interpretation is that if a Sikh turns Guru word or Guru faced or Guru centered, then what happens? Oh, then there's a repetition of emphasis, and then it explains later. Hove ta Sanmukh Sikh koi jiyo rahe Guru nale. Guru word if a Sikh may turn, and as a result, jiya ho raha Guru nale stays with the Guru deep within the being. And what does staying within means? The next line explains it. It says, Gur ke charan hirdatai. Within the heart, that individual focuses on the Guru's feet. Now, again, it's a very figurative language. We start thinking about whose charan are we talking about. We start to visualize, creating pictures in mind. And Gurbani at other places informs us that for us, Guru's charan is Sabad because Gur Murat Gur Sabad hai. That Guru's form or body is essentially Guru's word, Guru's instruction is Guru's Murat for us. And so what that means is that Gurbani is essentially Guru's charan. That when we, enshrine Guru's word or Sabad within, that's remembering Guru's charan. So when a person enshrines Guru's instructions within, that's how Antaratma Samale. Antaratma, deep within the being Samale. Remember, Samale means both taking care of as well as remembering. Here it means when a person within the being, remembers, uh, connects with the Kalpurk. That's how a person Jio Harinale stays with the suggestion is to stay, Guru focused or adhere to the Guru's instructions in thought, spirit, word, and action, and not just superficially. When that happens, aap chhad sada rahe parna. That person, by implication, gives up self, gives up, ego, and parna. Sada rahe parna stays. Sada rahe stays parna in support. Parna means multiple things. Parna means support. Parna means a married relationship, and by implication, the idea of support. Who do you seek support of? You seek support of only person who you trust, right? So support, trust, marriage, or idea of relationship, all these are related. So Parna is used for all these three things in Gurbani. So the idea is one who gives up ego and seeks the support of Ik Onkar, reposes faith in Ik Onkar, develops a relationship with Ik Onkar, and then Gurbin, other than the Guru, our na jana khoe, does not recognize anyone else. Basically, reposes faith in only one entity, which is Akal. Kaha Nanak. Nanak says, remember this, Suno Santo, listen, O divinely beings, so Sikh Sanmukh hoy. Consider such a person to be focused or be in the presence of Guru or be Guru centered or Guru word. These are the signs of a person being Guru word, and that's how you become Guru centered or Guru word, and then you start to show the signs of, you know, geonormal, baronormal. That's how you become both internally and externally pro. So the so the body advises that, it is not about lip service or seeing the guru as someone who simply, fulfills wishes, but developing a, loving relationship with the Sabbath as if it is our life support. That is when the transformation happens within us and we stop, acting. And these are the signs of integrity. When we actually develop that relationship of Jio Rahagunale, when within the being we stay connected. And that's how we become Sanmukh Guru focused. With that, we'll move to our last body. The previous body described individuals who are guru centered. Now this body is basically, contrasting, individuals who turn away from the guru. So we discussed Sanmukh and Vemukh together. So Vemukh was from this body. So it says, Je ko gurte Vemukh hove, bin satigur mukti na pave. Je ko, if any, gurte from the guru Vemukh hove, turns away, bin satigur and bin satigur muktana pave. Please know that such an individual cannot find freedom. There is no other option. Usually, people tend to interpret freedom in a very limited, narrow way in terms of liberation after death, which is coming from the dominant Hindu tradition. They fail to recognize the overarching vastness of the Guru's idea of freedom. And when Gurbani talks about freedom, it talks about, all sorts of freedom, freedoms from, mental block, freedom from, political slavery, freedom from social mores, freedom from, spiritual subservience. When you have a direct connection with a Kalpurk, when you don't have priestly class like Brahmins telling you what a Kalpurk has, designed for you, instruct you that when you have a direct relationship, when all sorts of bondages have broken, when all the shackles have been broken, when we are able to, realize our true self, our true potential, which is Ekanka, that's when we are truly free. That's what the idea of freedom is in Sikhi. We also talked about, in one of the previous sessions that according to Gurbani, there is no freedom or liberation or even, heaven after that. For a Sikh, if a Sikh is connected or is in a state of love, that is being the idea of liberated. That is being the idea of, being free all the time. And that happens only when you're alive. If I wasn't alive when if I wasn't free when I was alive, if I hadn't really connected with the Kalpruk through my actions when I'm alive, there is no freedom which I can gain by virtue of my, relatives doing certain rituals for me and I gaining that freedom or, reaching that one place called heaven. So that's no idea in Sikhi. And people who are able to achieve that freedom in life are called Jivan Mukat. People, Jivan life, Mukat free. Free people who have become free within their lives. Sometimes the word Marjivade is also used, even though the connotation of Marjivade is someone who's brave. But in Sikhi, brave isn't someone who goes out and kills other. In Sikhi, brave is someone who is so courageous who has, overpowered his or her, cravings, because that's the most difficult battle to win. Guru Gobind tells us it's easier, manjita jagjit, it's easier to conquering, people, places, but it's really difficult to control one's mind. And if we are able to do that, we are really, actually, in real sense, marjivade, the braves. And we are those individuals, the brave ones are the ones who become free by virtue of, walking on the Guru's instruction. So the next line says, Pava Mukti. Now, और था कोई, same idea repeated. Uh, do not be fooled. Pava Mukta na और था कोई. Nobody has found, no individual has found freedom, mukti, fourth hand from any other place. Pucho Bibekiya jai. Go and ask the Bibekiya if you have any doubt. Bibekiya comes from Bib plus Ek. Bib means second or the other, and Ek means uh, one, obviously. So Vivek is, moving from duality or doubt towards a state of clarity or oneness. So Vivek in Sikhi is Guru's wisdom that brings clarity in thought and removes doubt to show us, oneness and unity in this creation. That's the idea of Vivek. So the line is basically saying, please reflect on this, on your, try it yourself if you want to. There is no mukti, there is no liberation on your own. Mukti happens only fourth hai koi. There is no mukti anywhere else. Bin Sadguru Mukta na pawa. Without the Guru, there is no mukti. And if you have any doubt, use wisdom or use the wisdom of the wise people, people who have already experienced it. Use their wisdom. Next line says, Anek juni parmi ave, bin Satiguru Mukti na paye. Anek juni param ave. That individual wanders around living and dying multiple times every moment. The Guru plays with this idea of transmigration. Anek juna, the idea of transmigration. When Satigur Muktana Pai, but remember, you will keep on dying, living, taking birth and dying every moment. The person will not find freedom. When Satguru, without Satguru, Mukti na pa. There is no freedom. You will not be able to find freedom. But then, Mukti. Then is there a lag?
There was, but I think it has caught up to you. I think we're good now.
Okay. फिर मुक्त पाए लाग चरणी सतगुरु शब्द सुनाए. After having suffered, फिर मुक्त पाए. When people, try their things in their self-centeredness, they'll see, okay, you go, oh, I know everything. I'll figure it out. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. So the line is essentially saying once they have suffered, tried and not, you use the, suggested or advised path, once they have suffered enough and they've realized their folly, फिर मुक्त पाए लाग चरनी. They find finally freedom through how? By lag charni, by attaching to or falling at the feet of the Guru. Again, the idea of feet coming. So, what is the feet of the Guru? It's the idea of submitting to the Guru wisdom, the sabad. Once we have suffered, when they have, after having suffered, realize their follies, their shortcomings, and they submit to the Guru wisdom, sabad. That's how lag charni, by falling at the feet. What happens then? By virtue of them submitting to the Guru, the wisdom enters their life. Sati Guru Sabad Sunai. The eternal Guru imparts Sabad wisdom. Sabad imparts the wisdom, you can say that. And the wisdom enters their life once they have submitted to the Guru. Kaha Nanak. Nanak says, by reminding again that vichar dekho, reflect on it and see for yourself if you have any doubt. When Satigur Mukti na pai. There is no freedom without the eternal Guru wisdom, this Sabbath. Now try to take this, idea. You might find this idea very casual or trivial, but try to take this idea 600, 500 years, 600 years back when Guru Nanak wasn't there. People didn't have a song. People didn't even know what longing is. People were suffering. There was corruption. It's easier to think, these are simple lines. They just keep on repeating the same idea, trivial idea. Well, I can do that on my own. Well, you can try it. The Sabbath has wisdom. It has longing. It has love. It has a direction. The Akal Purkh actually resides within the Sabbath. If there was no Sabbath, we will not survive. It's really difficult. So we are very fortunate to actually have Guru Sabad, for the Guru having come and revealed the Akal Purkh in the form of wisdom to us. And we are fortunate enough to have that wisdom to us so that we could actually make our life meaningful and blissful. So in that sense, we are really fortunate. So the body is basically explaining that an individual who is full of himself or herself wanders around in ego, and consequence of that suffers. An egoist person only submits to the guru after having taken a beating once they have tried and tested their self-centered ways. But when they have exhausted themselves, or when they're near their fag end of life or whatever, that is once they have that is when they submit, when they have realized their limitations. And then the idea of parna becomes very important. That's when you know they seek the support. But if we are wise enough, we'll seek support of the guru in time, before we have lost our lives. We take the support of parna, the idea of game. We guru aap chhad, they give we give up our ego, sada rahe padne. And if we stay always in the refuge of support of the guru's wisdom, that is when we truly become free, and that's when we experience the bliss of union. So that's what essentially I think this body is telling us. With that, we finish our session. If there's any question, we are open to take it.
Lovely. Thank you so much. We do have many questions. Just to be mindful of time, I think we'll only have time for one or two, but I have noted down all of the questions. So if we want to address them next week or in the coming weeks, depending on themes, we can address them there. But the first question that we have is, it appears Gurbani is very clear that we need to be pure from inside. And once that happens, outward dignified characteristics will automatically appear. But I see the trend the other way. How do we turn this around? And this is from Biljit Soni from Los Angeles.
That's very true, Vijay, and that's exactly this body is telling us, that we choose the opposite direction. The thing is, if we have developed sowed the seed of love within, the outwardly signs will start appearing on their own. That's very true. I think it doesn't need any further explanation. You're absolutely right. That's what's Gurbani telling us. Before we move on to the next question, there is a comment by Ripudaman Singh. He's basically elaborating on the word Betalia that we used, and he's telling one of the interpretations is, being out of tal, out of basically rhythm, someone's who basically have lost harmony of life and who are basically out of sync, who are not in the know of the divine knowledge. That's another interpretation, and that's true. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, next question.
Yes, so this will be our last question. The question is, what if we don't have focus when engaging with Gurbani? What can we do? And this comes from Sukhjot Kaur in Toronto.
Well, we don't have focus when we don't love something. That's how it is. When we are watching a movie, when we really engage with it, why? Because we are enjoying it. We don't have focus when we are not enjoying something. Anything that we are really enjoying, we will never lose focus on it. So the idea is, and the only solution to that is to continue to engage with it, knowing that, having convinced our mind that this is the best thing for us, then trying different ways to develop a relationship, developing a love, so that when we actually read Gurbani, we start enjoying it. And that will happen, I think, personally, I'm telling my own understanding of experience, that when we try to read Gurbani as mantras, chants, spells, to gain certain things, this feeling will elude us. It's only when we start to getting that taste out of it, when we are reading it, as if the guru has taken us in his lab, and then making us read it. When Gurbani says love, as he harsiyo preet kar jaisi jal kamle, and chatrik mein, machli neer. There are so many examples that this is how you love the Kalpurk. And if we are able to develop that kind of relationship where Chatri cannot live without me. Machli cannot live without water. When we are able to develop that kind of relationship, that's when we will not lose focus. If you're losing focus, it's because we don't love it. And we need to see how different things work for different people. If we are able to develop that love, we will never lose. Love is the central criteria. Hope that answers that.
Thank you so much. That does wrap up the question portion of our webinar. So Inderpal, is there anything else that you wanted to address before I wrap it up?
No, thank you. I think we're done.
Lovely. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending the 6th week of this live webinar. Thank you for all of your questions. And again, apologies to those questions that were not answered due to time constraint. Please note that a recording of this live class will be available within 24 hours. Please tune in next week for the 7th class in this live series. We are also hosting bi-weekly live webinars. Our next one will be on Sunday. So if your children are free on Sunday morning, we are hosting a webinar on June 14th as we welcome various guest presenters who will be joined, some of them will be joined by their children, to engage with Shabad, Saki, storytelling, art, music, and more. These various activities will help children learn about Sikhi in new and creative ways, prompting lots of questions and space for self-discovery. And lastly, don't forget to tune in to the Sikhcast, a podcast produced by Sikhri, where we explore the various issues and events affecting Sikhs worldwide. Thank you for joining in today. Today's live class will be ending now. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.